The things you're doing right now to manage your bladder leaks, they might actually be making them worse. Not the obvious stuff. Not drinking 4 coffees a day, not ignoring pelvic floor exercises. I'm talking about the things that feels completely logical. The things you figured out on your own. Running to the bathroom the second you feel the urge. Going just in case before leaving the house. Drinking less water so there is less to deal with. All of it is making it worse. I know, stay with me. Because once you understand why, you can actually start fixing it. And that's the whole point. Today we are going through 5 everyday habits that are quietly keeping you stuck. What they are, why they are a problem, and what to do instead. Let's get into it. Habit number 1, the just in case pee. The one I talked about every single day with clients. This is so common. The just in case pee, you know exactly what this is. You're about to leave the house, so you go, even though you went 30 minutes ago. Just in case. You walk past a bathroom at the office, you pop in, just in case. Every break, at every airport, every restaurant, every meeting gap, wherever you get the chance, you use the bathroom. Not because you're desperate, just in case. And I get it. When you have been caught off guard, before it feels smart to stay ahead of it, but here is what's actually happening. Your bladder is a muscle, and the muscle adapts to how they are used. When you empty it before it's actually full again and again, your bladder learns that this smaller amount is what full feels like. So it sends the signal sooner. Your capacity to hold shrinks. You go sooner, your capacity shrinks again. The more you go, the more you train your brain and your bladder like that, and the urgency comes even sooner. It becomes a whole cycle. And the more you do it, the more pattern you create, and the worse it gets. A healthy bladder, you should comfortably be able to go every 3 to 4 hours between bathroom visits. If you're going every hour or constantly going just in case, this habit is very likely part of the reason. The solution for that is bladder retraining, gradually extending the time between bathroom visits so your bladder relearns how to hold more. And yes, it works. It's all about how you retrain it again. You have to break that pattern. Habit number 2, running when the urge hits. We all know that we try to rush when we have that urge to pee. The urge hits, and what do? You run because it feels urgent. It feels like an emergency. But here is what most people don't realize. That urge is usually just a muscle working overactive phase. A wave, like most waves, it peaks and then it passes, usually within 60 to 90 seconds. When you panic and sprint to the bathroom, 2 things happen. First, running and rushing actually increases your urgency. Second, every time you respond like it's an emergency, your brain learns that and it thinks that this urge is equals crisis. So it feels like, oh, that's how it gets trained, and that panic response becomes automatic. Your brain just responds that way. So what I teach my clients instead is something called the urge suppression. In that, when the urge hits, instead of running, just wait. Don't rush. Stay still. Try to distract yourself. Then do 3 to 5 quick pelvic floor squeezes. This sends a signal back to your bladder that says, not yet. Then take a slow breath, distract your brain for a minute. And when the urgency settles, walk calmly to the bathroom. This retrains the reflex between your brain and your bladder. Before we move to habit 3, if you're already recognizing yourself in this first 2, this is exactly the kind of work we go through inside the leak-proof method. If you want help figuring out what specifically driving your symptoms, you can book a free call through the link below in the description. Alright, let's talk about habit 3. And this one surprises almost everyone. Hovering over the toilet. Hovering over the toilet seat, we do it so often than we think. We go somewhere in public, the public bathroom, we feel like it's not clean, the seat looks questionable, so you hover. Half squat, you're working your quads, you're working on getting your pelvic floor overworked. We have all done it. But here is the problem. To hold that hovering position, your pelvic floor muscles have to stay contracted. It does not get the chance to relax. And when it's not relaxed, you can't properly empty. So your pelvic floor needs to relax to pee properly. So when you hover, your bladder can empty completely. Residual urine stays behind, and that leftover urine makes urgency return much sooner. So instead of hovering, sit the seat cover, or just use some wipes, carry that with you and clean that, but let your pelvic floor relax so your bladder can fully empty. So you don't feel like you have to go to the bathroom in next 10 minutes because you didn't completely empty. Full empty means longer before the next urge. Habit 4. Cutting your water. We do this all the time. This is such a common practice when we think that we need to cut down the water intake, and it feels logical, right? Women often start drinking less water. The thinking is simple. Less in, less out. We all think that way. Except that's not what happens. When you drink too little water, your urine becomes concentrated, darker, more acidic. And that concentrated urine irritates the bladder lining. And that irritation sends more urgency signals. So instead of helping it, you made it more worse. So drinking less water actually increases urgency. So instead of cutting water, I would say spread it out throughout the day. If you're scared, front load your day. Drink most of it earlier in the day, morning, afternoon, and then by evening, start tapering down in the evening. This is such a useful practice. This supports your bladder without overwhelming it. And I've seen so many clients make this mistake but have helped them completely by changing it. Number 5, ignoring your bowel. Habit number 5 is the one people expect the least. Ignoring your poop. Your bladder and your bowel sit right next to each other. They share the same pelvic floor. When you are constipated, what happens is a full bowel presses directly against your bladder. That pressure reduces bladder capacity. So it starts feeling like it's already full, but that's not because of the bladder itself, but because of the bowel, which means urgency shows up sooner. And the straining that comes with constipation puts downward pressure on the pelvic floor. Over time, that weakens the support for your bladder. So if your urgency is worse when you haven't had a good bowel movement, that's not coincidence. It's directly connected. Supporting a healthy bowel habits is actually part of improving good bladder control. So let's zoom out for a second. Because I just told you that 5 things you might be doing to cope are actually reinforcing the problem. And that can feel frustrating. I know. We think that these are the things that should not be affecting our bladder, but here is the important part. Your bladder is trainable. You can train it in the right way. Break that pattern, and it's not broken, it's not stuck. The habits you have built have trained it to behave a certain way, and new habits can train it differently. That's not theory. You can actually do the change, and it's something I see change every week with clients. We focus on this first before we jump into any kind of exercise because this is the foundation. We need to create the predictability for your bladder. Habit 1, the just in case pee. Habit 2, running the second you feel urgency. Habit 3, hovering over the toilet. Habit 4, cutting your water. Habit 5, ignoring your bowels. 5 habits that quietly reinforce bladder urgency. And 5 habits you can start shifting today. If you have been dealing with urgency or leaks and you saw yourself in some of these habits, we all do. First of all, you're not alone. These are the most common patterns I see. And the good news is they're absolutely changeable. If you want help working through what's happening in your body, you can book a free call with me through the link below. We'll talk about your symptom and what getting better could actually look like for you and take back the control. Now that you know the habits that make this worse, the real test is this. What happens when everything is working against you? Travel, conferences, long work days, being completely out of your routine. Make sure you watch that next.